completed 4-0 through 5. 4-0, the Mets on top. Cardinals tonight have stolen 5 bases. I asked Gary Carter if there'd be more emphasis keeping the Cardinals close in the series.
Probably so, because of course St. Louis is a running ball club, and they're going to be taking every opportunity that they can and stealing a base and taking advantage of any situation. And so I've got to get my arm good and loose, and with this warm weather here, maybe it'll happen.
Well, his arm appears to be pretty loose, but the Cardinals have run a lot of catchers ragged. 5 steals tonight, but still the scoreboard says 4-0 New York. And Rick Ownby makes his 15th appearance of the season on in relief of John Tudor in the 6th inning with the Mets on top, and Rafael Santana 2 for 2 at the plate. Ownby in the role of long man right now. He's made 3 starts. Cardinals have had a depleted pitching staff this year. Danny Cox started the year hurt. Jeff Lottie is on the disabled list. Ricky Horton spent some time on the DL. They traded Andujar, of course. So it's been a vastly different situation. Even though, in a general sense, the pitching's been very good. The pitching has not been the Cardinals' downfall this year. Santana keeps his perfect night alive with a walk.
Yeah, especially the starters, as the Cardinals are second in the National League in ERA.
Scores, San Diego leading now 7-2 in the 6th. Braves shutting the Giants out through 8. American League right there, Toronto 9-5 in the 6th. Yankees have lost 10 straight in the stadium. Texas ahead, and Chicago now leads California 4-2. Angels starting the day a half game in front of Texas in the American West. Tudor up there to bunt, fouling it back. 0-1. Or Ojeda up there to bunt. 0-1 the count. Bob Ojeda has twice grounded out. And now hitting .088. Charges from third, and it's popped up in foul ground, and Heath dives but can't make the catch.
And it's a good thing Heath didn't make the catch, because if he makes the catch, Santana tags and the sacrifice is successful. So there's no sense in diving for a ball like this. Santana walks to second base. Now, what if Mike Heath catches the ball? What happens? Probably ends up close to the Mets dugout, and the sacrifice is successful. So with a pop fly 2, Santana would go to second base in most unusual fashion.
And you know, the irony of that is Heath gets a nice hand for it, and yet had he thought it out and not made that attempt, they would have booed him for not trying for it. Fouled at the plate. And that's strike 3. So Ojeda is gone. 1 away.
Well, you see Ojeda going to the dugout. John Tudor has exited, and we just showed the San Diego Padres score. And it reminds me of something that was in USA Today last week, Al. Of course, Steve Boros, the very literate manager of the Padres, was asked to name his 5 favorite books. Don Quixote, Moby Dick, The Great Gatsby, Huckleberry Finn, and his last one is not a book whose title endears you to Major League Manager. His last book, Farewell to Arms. That is a bad book to like as a manager.
Terrible for a pitching coach.
Mercy. Worse for a pitcher.
Oh. Like some old Boston staffs of the past, doesn't it?
Indeed it does. Not this year, though.
1-1. And yet, knowing Burroughs at night, he probably curls up with a good old Elias baseball analyst.
Either that or a computer programming book, along with Davey Johnson.
Hit sharply on a hop to Smith. To her, he turns it over in time for the double play. Wilson and the Mets are done in the sixth. It's still 4-0 Mets at the end of 5 1/2. In St. Louis, our season premiere of Monday Night Baseball, Al Michaels along with Tim McCarver Stadium, where Bo Jackson made his debut tonight. He struck out, by the way, his second time up. What did you think of that decision, and what do you think of Bo's chances?
I think that Bo Jackson made the right decision for this reason. If he fails in baseball, he will have a much better chance of going to football by failing baseball, whereas if you fail in football, it might be the injury that's going to put you out. And then you can, by coming back and trying to play baseball, you may be 40 years old and say, I wonder if I would have tried baseball, would I have been successful?
That hasn't been pointed out enough. I think you're exactly right. It would be very difficult to make the transition the other way. But this way, if it doesn't work out, if he doesn't live up to whatever self-imposed timetable he has, it's the type of skill running with a football. It's not going to leave you overnight. Willie McGee leads things off. 1-1 the count. McGee, Nicely, and Landrum. That's what Chris Berman, I'm sure, would call you on ESPN. Tim McCarver Stadium.
There are worse things.
1-1 pitch is inside. Jackson has grounded out his third time up. So we showed you his single earlier, and now he's 1 for 3. Nothing but a flash in the pan, huh? 2-2. Think about Bo Jackson. If you're a second baseman, think about him at that size and with that speed coming in to break up a double play.
Of course, there's a lot of technique that will have to be learned by Bo. There are a lot of guys in baseball that are fast but not good base stealers. One that comes to mind, Chili Davis of the Giants. He's thrown out almost as much as he steals second base.
2-2. Line on Ojeda. Be nice if Bo makes it to the big league someday and has the opportunity to try to score against Mike Sosa.
Oh, man.
I say it would be nice. It'd be nice for the fans. It wouldn't be very nice. Very good for Sosa.
Willie McGee led the National League in hitting last year, the most valuable player, and he has just fouled back some pitches that he would hammer in past years. Batting .244.
And he chased that one. 4 strikeouts. Strawberry getting the night off. And Gooden, who won his 9th yesterday, with 151 pitches in Chicago.
Pretty good Canella right there.
A man who's already won a Cy Young, and a fellow who has the type of tools that could someday manifest itself in an MVP award or two. Nicely. 0-1 the count. Nicely has popped out and single to right.
Strawberry and Gooden, of course, rookies of the year, and if Kevin Mitchell gets enough at bats this year, he could be considered as a rookie of the year candidate.
Santana backhands Nicely and throws him out. Raphael not hurrying the play, knowing that Nicely doesn't run very well. And a man who's had a perfect night at the plate does the job in the field.
And the reason Davey Johnson started Raphael tonight was for this reason. A lot of ground balls by right-handed hitters thrown by Ojeda. And that's pointed out well. He took his time. Santana does not have a lot of range to his right. He does have range to his left, but not to his right. But he did make a nice play on that ball. It's easier to have range to your left, obviously, because when you go to your left, that's the side your glove's on. when you have to cross over. You have a real problem on the rug in that you have to stop, plant the foot, and throw back across your body. That's why it's tougher to go to your right than it is to go to your left.
Little looper, foul territory, and playable if Hernandez can get there, but no. He's had a little trouble finding it. Tough play. Ball not hit that high, and he had a move on the dead run, and he couldn't come up with it.
Yeah, you don't have a chance to get a foundation here. You got to make the catch on the run, and Hernandez is actually going toward the right field fence. He's to the right of the ball. We saw Terry Pendleton last year make those two spectacular plays. One off Steve Balboni in the series, the other off Greg Brock of the Dodgers right here at Busch Stadium.
And he made a mini play of that sort yesterday against the Phillies. To right field and to Kevin Mitchell. And it will be Mitchell who will be leading things off when the Mets come to bat in the top of the 7th. Ojeda a shutout through 6. Mets in first and on top 4-0.
10-game losing streak at home may be over for the Yankees. This is Corey McFerrin in New York. Bottom of the 8th, Tigers-Yanks 1-1 game. Ron Hasse at the plate. Clubs one deep to center field. Chet Lemon going back. It's over his head. In to score. It'll be Claudell Washington, his first run as a Yankee. Mike Easler trots in. Yanks in front 3-1. They've just won it 3-2. That's the final score. Winning for the first time at Yankee Stadium since May 25th.
So the 10-game losing streak is over as the other New York club, the Mets, keep on rolling. The score 4-0, and Kevin Mitchell in the lineup tonight with Darryl Strawberry nursing the sore ankle. And in the 5th inning, Kevin hitting a towering drive for his 4th home run of the season. Interestingly, 2 of them off Tudor into the basket for a home run. And here he is now to face Rick Ownby. Ownby takes a strike. Dave Johnson watching his team in front, trying to maintain a 9.5 game advantage. Ownby, by the way, is one of those who came to the Cardinals in that Keith Hernandez trade 3 years ago, the other being Neil Allen. 1-2.
Neil Allen, of course, now pitching for the Chicago White Sox. That trade made June 14th, 1983. And Rick Ownby has good stuff. 10-9 last year with Louisville, but he does have a tendency to get wild. If he throws strikes, he can be tough.
2-2.
Ownby with hobbies that really endear management to long-term contracts. He likes throwing the frisbee, playing volleyball, water skiing.
Well, what do you expect from a guy from Orange County?
Corona, California.
Beach boy.
Yes, sir. Laid back.
The thing I love about Ownby is he's always got a great tan. You know, there's a man with his priorities in order. Get that sun. Hit foul. He's also a character. You come out to do a Cardinal game, and we'll do the interviews that we roll in during the game, and normally you're dealing with your Carters and Hernandezes and people like that. And Rick's always ready to walk up and be interviewed. He'll look at
maybe next time.
Yeah, he'll look at you, he'll say, not tonight. Two pitch is outside. They appeal at first base. No. 3-2. Hernandez and Carter in the 7th inning. 4 runs, 10 hits for the Mets. No runs, 4 hits for the Cards. them. So Mitchell with a walk, a single, a homer, and now another walk. He and Santana with perfect nights going. And here's Hernandez. Again, that trade, if you tuned in late, Ed Lynch, who was on rehabilitation assignment in AAA, sent to the Cubs today for 2 minor leaguers. And there are the figures for Dave Linderman. 2-5 and a 4.89 ERA at Pittsfield. And the catcher Dave Liddell, a 266 hitter at Peoria.
With John Tudor starting this ball game, I can hear Hernandez in the dugout now saying, come on, you right-handers, get him out of there.
With the runner going, it goes under Nicely's glove and a base hit. So they send Mitchell, and Hernandez pokes it in the hole.
And the right-handers did get Tudor out of there, and Hernandez has a chance to hit against the right-handed pitcher. And a little 38 hopper with Nicely holding Mitchell to first. Just scoots under his glove as Mitchell scoots to third.
So runners now at first and third, and the Mets trying to break it wide open with Gary Carter at the plate. Tim, you follow the Mets every day, so I've got to ask you, since everybody's wondering about Dwight Gooden, those who don't see him every day, and wondering if he and why he has become mortal even with that 9-3 mark. Carter hits a bouncer to third, and Pendleton will come home, and Heath is there to make the tag. And so Mitchell, as he has to do there on a grounder to the left side, is thrown out at the plate 5-2, and there are runners at first and second.
If you're at third base and you don't run in this situation, they turn the double play, and you're stranded at third. This is an unusual way to break up 2. However, on the other hand, it was the proper play for Pendleton, because with the Cardinals down 4-0, you just cannot afford, even at the expense of giving the double play, you can't afford the Mets scoring another run.
That runner at third is always committed in the first and third and no-out situation on that ground ball. You think of the egg on your face if they turn 2 and you're still sitting there.
Right.
Here's Foster. Flied out, struck out, and singled. Anyway, with runners at first and second, what's your summation of Gooden right now and the difference, if any?
Well, we talked earlier in the ball game about when my antenna went up in spring training.
As Foster hits a soft looper that may have grazed off the glove of Ownby, they throw to first for 1 out and get a reverse double play with Carter hung up between first and second. Not sure which way they were going to go, and we'll get back to Gooden in the bottom of the 7th. 4-0. For the Mets, defensive change. Len Dykstra takes over in center field, and he will bat in the number 5 spot. Foster making the last out of the top of the inning, and Mookie Wilson goes to left. Scoring summary: Tuffle and Santana combining for the first run, then Carter with an RBI single, and Knight with an RBI single, producing 2 more. Kevin Mitchell hit a home run in the 5th inning off Tudor, and the Mets lead 4-0 back of Bob Ojeda as we proceed to the bottom of the 7th. And there's Wilson, who's moved from center over to left. So Foster is out of the game. Dykstra bats in the 5 spot. Okay. Mike Heath to lead off in the bottom of the 7th. And we were talking about Dr. K.
My antenna went up in spring training when Dwight was talking about economizing on the pitchers. We brought it up earlier in the ball game. And a lot of hitters do not cooperate with pitchers who are trying to economize their pitches. But I think technically, Gooden has suffered early wildness. Usually he was the past couple of years. He's only 21 years old. He turned 21 November 16th of '85. But in the past, he'd always gotten ahead of the hitters in the early innings, established himself.
Ojeda fields the comebacker and gets Heath, and Pendleton will come up.
And I think with all the media pressure and all that's been said, as you look at Pat Perry warming for the Cardinals, I think with all that's been said, he's trying to throw the ball too hard. And by doing that, his stride is extended about 4 inches. This is Mel Stottlemyre's thinking also. And a lot of people refer to that as overthrowing, but technically it's overstriding. and you get up under the fastball, and you have a tendency to push the ball, which makes your fastball high. Now, you couple that with the fact that the National League hitters are a little smarter now. They're not swinging at the high fastball anymore. They're making him get the ball down. And yet, he's still 9-3 with a 2.70 ERA.
What about keeping his perspective with the notoriety and the fame?
Oh, yeah, he has done that so well. And Darryl Strawberry, too, for that matter. New York, a very difficult city. Difficult circumstances under which to break in. And he has done that very, very well. A few things during the off-season, the run-in at the airport in New York, the sports writers' dinner last year. Much ado about nothing, in my opinion. Missing the sports writers' dinner, I should say. The accident in spring training with a friend where he didn't report. Davey fined him about that. But he's really a fine young man.
And he's on a pace still, even though he hasn't been as effective of late as he was early, to win 20 games again. 9 victories in less than half a season. 2-1 the count on Pendleton. You saw Lawless on deck. And that's pop foul back out of play. And the count 2 balls and 2 strikes.
I'll tell you, Al, the first time in St. Louis that we came into town this year, Bob Gibson had a very interesting comment about Dwight Gooden. He said that he will never be any better than he is right now. And he said it as a tribute to Gooden, because Bob said, well, how much better can he be? I mean, how can you have a better year than a 24-4 and a 1.53 ERA?
It's a great way to look at it. Pendleton pops it out. It's the case with Gibson. You go back to 1968. He had that beyond belief year with a 1.12 ERA. And then the funny thing is, your expectations are even greater if you're a fan the next year. Why can't he do it again, you begin to think.
And the Hall of Famer Bob Gibson was 29 years old before he struck out as many as Gooden did when Gooden was 19. To put things in perspective.
In the air to right center field. And it's Mitchell making the play. 2 down. You know, it's funny, you think about superstars' careers, not necessarily pitchers, and they're coming into the game, a look at the averages, and as you can see, Ozzie Smith, a man who would normally hit 8th, had the Cardinals having the type of year they did last year, is the key man at 302, and you've got 3 men in the 1s and another at 211 as Lawless bats here for Ownby. I was thinking this yesterday when Mike Schmidt was here and we did the game, thinking about superstars' careers. Guys come up, a lot is expected of them. They turn in good early performances. Then they may go through little swale periods, as they all do. And the crowd begins to develop almost a love-hate relationship with you for a while. And then you come back out the other side in your mid to late 30s, and they love you all over again.
That certainly happened to Mickey Mantle with the New York Yankees. Great case there. Not until Roger Maris appeared on the scene did Mantle become the popular favorite that he was to be remembered by.
Right.
He had struggled with the press and the people in New York all through the 50s, and Roger comes on the scene, and Roger, a super guy and very instrumental in the Cardinal championship years in 67 and 8.
Yep.
Super ball player, but maligned a bit in New York. And a lot of people who didn't want him to break the record, and so that shifted everything off of Mantle, put it on Roger, and Mantle was looked upon as a hero, which is the way he should have been looked upon in the 50s.
Sure.
It's a cycle. It's interesting.
Yeah. If you start off so hot so early, I mean, the expectations are always there, and then if you can't live up to them, the frustrations begin to build in for a while. I mentioned Schmidt. And in a way, you know, Mike's career has sort of been like that. Johnny Bench went through those cycles, too. The brilliant young catcher, 2 MVPs before he was 24 years old. Then all of a sudden, you know, you have those 1 or 2 bad years, and you begin to get booed, and you come out the backside, and everybody's in love again. Lawless strikes out swinging. Ojita's now set down 7 straight. At the end of 7, it's 4-0 Mets. We'll tell you again that next Monday, Oakland and Boston, and without a rainout, if they stay in their rotation, it would be Roger Clemens' turn to pitch next Monday. Oakland against Boston, the other game, Yankees, Texas, on Monday Night Baseball next week. And then Sunday, Seattle against Boston will begin at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, or Detroit at Texas, and Tom Seaver is scheduled as of right now to work that game. Meanwhile, Pat Perry comes out of the bullpen to pitch for the Cardinals here in the 8th inning. 4-0. Mets on top. Perry is a guy who has been released twice, but has hung with it and has worked his way back, and in fact this year was sent down at one point only to be called back up. He's been released by Houston and Cleveland. The count. Ray Knight 2 for 3. Knight, Tuffle, and then Santana here in the top of the 8th inning. Came in here in April, swept the 4-game series. The only other meeting this season between these clubs was opening day at Shea when the Cardinals won, and the rest of that series was rained out. So this is the 6th meeting.
I don't know if it was the shot heard round the world, but it was certainly the shot heard around the state of Missouri when Howard Johnson hit a 1-2 fastball off Todd Worrell to tie it up, a 2-run homer in the top of the 9th inning of Game 1 of that 4-game series. And Whitey Herzog has made the comment that that was the biggest base hit. And there's Howard right there. 2-run homer against Todd Worrell. The Mets eventually won that game in 10, and the descent of the Cardinals really started with that ball game.
In the air to right center, and Landrum got a good jump on it and flags it down, 1 away. Good wood, but to no avail. And Tim Tuffle is the batter. You know, the Cardinals way out of it as you look at the largest division leads through the 30th of June, and that's the date today. All of those teams, and that's since divisional play began in 1969, all of those teams went on to win their division. Orioles won the pennant, A's won the division and lost in the playoffs to Baltimore. Tigers won the pennant, Reds won the pennant, and the Phillies in '76 lost to the Reds in the playoffs. But they all went on to hold that margin. And the Mets at 9.5 as we turn a page on the calendar. Willie McGee in his tracks. 2 down. Santana the batter.
Excuse me, Al. The Montreal Expos won their 4th straight game today, and the Mets, it would appear, unless the Cardinals can come back in the 2 innings they have left, the Mets are going to win 4 in a row. So had the Expos lost those 4 games, it would be a 13.5 game edge instead of 9.5. Montreal really deserves a lot of credit. Nobody's going to give as much credit to them because of the also-ran status right now. But Buck Rogers has done a marvelous job with that ball club.
And who would have figured that the Expos would be the only team really with a chance to catch the Mets?
You talk about injuries. Charlie Lee was lost maybe for his career. David Palmer's in Atlanta now. Bryn Smith is not pitching like his 18-5 year of a year ago. Andre Dawson's been on the disabled list for a month. Tim Raines has missed several games, and yet they're still hanging in there.
In the air to shallow center, and it's Ozzie Smith taking care of it and taking care of the Mets. But at the end of 7.5, it remains the Mets 4 and the Cardinals nothing. Update scores for you. Montreal in 11 innings beat Chicago 4-3 at Wrigley. Pittsburgh has defeated Philadelphia 3-2. In the 9th inning, San Diego leads Houston But Atlanta beat San Francisco, so the Astros will maintain their advantage in the West by a half game. And the Reds have now caught the Dodgers 5-5. Meanwhile, Wild won at Fenway 9-9. Toronto and Boston in the 8th. Yanks win. Baltimore comes from behind to win 5-2. Twins and Rangers are tied in the 7th. White Sox lead California 4-3 in the 8th. Houston will lead San Francisco by half a game, and Atlanta pulls to within 2 now in the National League West, and that's 5 consecutive victories for Chuck Tanner's team. They swept San Diego over the weekend, so they're hot. Vince Coleman, triple, walk, grounded out. Waves at and misses it. 0-1. Typical night of frustration for the Cardinals. No scoring, 4 hits, and the game began on an ominous note. Coleman tripled and never scored. Triple leading off. Good bunt. No way. Nancy Lopez, the great golfer and the wife of Ray Knight, squinting for a better look. New mama.
And very appropriate, because that looked like one of Nancy Lopez's putts. Coleman just put down third.
Right.
That was a blueprint, wasn't it?
Knight should have just picked it up as a gimme. I mean, with Coleman running, you got no chance. Ozzie Smith. And Coleman goes. The pitch is high. The throw to second. Not in time. 4 steals for Coleman. And 5 steals in the game.
No contest right here. 4 stolen bases for Vince Coleman. That gives him 49 on the year. Only 4 catchers have thrown him out. Jody Davis, the only one to get him twice this year.
1-0 the count on Ozzie Smith. And Santana was ducking in back of second, and Ojeda came home with it, so the left side was vacant.
Tell you, if you're the Mets right here, you can't be too concerned with Coleman. You have a 4-run lead, bottom of the 8th inning. Really got to get an out, even if that out moves Coleman to third base, even if he steals third. It's only 1 run out there, but because of his speed, I think teams have a tendency to think of him as more than 1 run and 1 runner. That's what speed does to you. Times it's not the stolen base itself that's the important thing. It's the threat of the stolen base. What it does to the pitcher, the middle infielders moving all around, like Santana did on that second pitch to Smith.
And Ozzie's on. So that should get him stirring in the Mets bullpen. Runners at first and second with nobody out, and Tommy Herr coming to the plate. This telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Tommy Herr comes to the plate. In the Met bullpen, they were leaning forward and looking into the dugout, but no activity as of the moment. And as soon as we say that, there will be. Roger McDowell, who's 7-0. That's not a very comforting sight for the opposition when somebody that hot gets up in the pen.
He's allowed only 6 earned runs in his last 49 innings of work. Tommy Herr has stranded 5 runners in 3 at-bats tonight.
10-game hitting streak on the line. Coleman at second and Smith at first. 0-1. count. Coleman with 4 steals. That equals his individual career high. He did it once before in Montreal last season.
Tommy hitting everything the other way against a pitcher who has never thrown over 90 miles an hour tonight. And that gives you an idea of how much Tommy is struggling. He has flied out to right, struck out, popped to first in foul territory. So he's not getting around on a fastball that's not thrown over 90 miles an hour. That's indicative again of how Herr is struggling. And the Cardinals. And
oddly, this has been the decent side of the plate for Herr, who came in tonight. It's almost 2 for 1. Herr hitting .311 right-handed and .166 left-handed. And his average down in the low 2s because obviously you hit left-handed a lot more than you hit right-handed. Popped up. And playable for Carter. And the boos cascade down one more time. That's becoming a common sound in St. Louis, especially over the past few days.
Interesting quote by Claude Osteen, the pitching coach of the Phillies, commenting on the booing of Ozzie Smith yesterday. He said the people started booing Ozzie Smith, and then they stopped themselves as in unison, as if to say, we can't boo him. It's
right.
Ozzie Smith.
Yeah.
Strange feeling.
There are some fans who will boo at the drop of a hat, but there were others who, in a way, begin to come to your defense if it's unmerited. 0-1 on McGee. But the funny thing nowadays, I mean, it's with television and all of the games that are available and the booing and the what have you done for me lately syndrome, it's rare that an athlete doesn't get booed, somebody who's in a slump.
I think one of the reasons booing is on the increase is because of television. The game looks so easy.
Yep. There goes Coleman, and it's grounded to short, and Santana flips to Tuffle, who turns it over for a double play. So with Coleman going on his own, they turn 2. The Cardinals don't score again, and we'll be back after this from your local station.
The kind of talent on this ball club that we feel that we can score a lot of runs. And we've got a great pitching staff as well. I mean, 2 guys with 9 wins, 2 guys with 8 wins, and Roger McDowell with 7 wins. So we've just got a good bunch of guys. It's a great chemistry on the ball club, and we just feel like we can go out and win every game.
They lead here 4-0 with Bob Ojeda at the plate, starting the 9th inning with a soft grounder to Tommy Herr. 1 away. Rick Ownby has set down the 4 men he's faced. And the top of the order now is Mookie Wilson, or Pat Perry now in. Rick Ownby, while he was in there, did the job in relief of John Tudor. But the damage was done early and done against the Cardinal left-hander. And when it's 4-0 and the way things are going for Ojeda and the way things are going for the Cardinals really offensively, 4 must look like 14.
Cardinals were shut out 8 times last year. They've been shut out 7 times this year. The Mets, on the other hand, have not been shut out in 71 games, and only one team in the history of the game went through an entire season without being shut out. That was the 32 Yankees. Matter of fact, the latter part of 31, the entire 32 season, and the beginning of 33, the Yankees went 301 games without being shut out. They had some mashers on that club.
Begin with Ruth, continue with Gehrig, and Bob Musial and Tony Lazzeri. Phil Necro. Seems that way, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm telling you.
1-2. You saw it the other night in Anaheim, Saturday night. 47-year-old Phil Niekro, 41-year-old Don Sutton. That was the matchup. Neither man figured in the decision. Two. One other thing I've got to explore with you.
Okay.
Before we leave, your guy Carlton. Can he still pitch, and can he still pitch effectively enough to help somebody?
I don't know whether he can still pitch effectively, but if I were the owner of a ball club, and this is unsolicited.
As Wilson goes down on strikes.
If I were the owner of a ball club, I would certainly take a chance with him, especially a team with a big dimension in left field. I've talked to Carlton. I think it'd be a big advantage to play in the American League, where the American League hitters would be more inclined to go for that slider, which has been his money pitch for about 15 years. It's worth it. It's worth a shot because, after all, it's only going to cost the team that acquires him $40,000. Philly's paying the rest of his salary. So if they are having a problem with their pitchers, I think it would be worth a chance.
Was he disappointed that he was released?
Yes. He thought it would be at least till the All-Star break, but on the other hand, you can understand the Phillies' position also. And you can't sacrifice, I would imagine Bill Giles and the Phillies are thinking you can't sacrifice the possible development of a younger pitcher if your determination is that Steve Carlton, even as great as he's been for that city and that ball club, can't get guys out anymore.
Base hit into left field as Mitchell's perfect night continues. That's 2 singles, a homer, and 2 walks. And eventually you're going to have to find a spot in the lineup for that man.
Hey, one of the impressive things about him, the ball gets off his bat. Now, he hit that ball down on the end of the bat. He didn't hit it on the sweet spot. I'm telling you, he crushes balls. Got that overspin on him. One of the big reasons he's not going to hit a lot of home runs, in my opinion, no more than in the low 20 range, is that he's got too much topspin on the line drives he hits. He has no lift to his swing. That's very important to hit home runs, to have lift and strength.
Hernandez takes the strike. You can see the smile as the booing gets louder with Hernandez. It's not that they dislike him any more in the ninth inning than they did in the first, but they're just venting their frustration here in St. Louis. Been a bad night, been a bad year. And so every time Keith has come up tonight, the decibel meter is higher and higher. And of course, the other thing is he's playing with the team that's running away with it. And that really hurts. And there's the updated figure for Mitchell at 368. A base hit for Keith. Mitchell stopping at second, and so Hernandez is 2 for 5. The Mets with 1 run in the second, 2 in the third, 1 in the fifth, and a total of 13 hits.
Of course, you see Kevin Mitchell down at second base. Darryl Strawberry, the Rookie of the Year in 1983. Dwight Gooden in 1984. But this young man, a different type of hitter entirely from Strawberry. Strawberry with tremendous lift in his hands. And Mitchell got thunder in his bat. Thunder pop.
Every time I think of Mitchell, I think of those guys who do nothing but moan and complain and say that they can't hit because they're being moved around.
Oh, boy.
You know, the guy who goes from the outfield to first base or whatever, or tells you that I can't play third or should really be in left. This guy's played 6 different positions, and he's hitting in the 360s. Or close to it.
Kevin's saying, is play me or sit me on the bench. That's very, very important, and you often don't find that with young ball players. Older ball players, much more amenable to that type of situation, how they're used, than younger players.
Base hit into left center field, and Mitchell will be waved in. He'll score to make it 5-0 as Hernandez stops at second. That's so true. If you're a veteran, you feel as if you've earned some respect. If you're a Pedro Guerrero or somebody, and they're moving you around between the outfield and third base, you can begin to use it as an excuse, I suppose, or at least as a possibility. The fact when you go into a slump, you're thinking about fielding, but if you're a young guy just looking for a spot in the line, that's the last thing in the world you want to do.
That's right. On the other hand, you take a case like Lee Lacy with the Orioles, who was always an extra man and never really had an opportunity. He had that tag on him as being an extra man, and then when he was given the opportunity to play regularly, he responded with great years. 3 in a row, as a matter of fact.
Hernandez at second, and Carter at first. Ground ball, fair ball. Nicely to Perry, too late. And Perry is hurt. The ball rolls out of his glove. Hernandez scores, and runners will be at first and third as Perry gets run over, steamrolled by Len Dykstra.
I'll tell you, when Dykstra dove for the bag, dangerous in itself, he set up a stump on first base, and I believe Perry tripped over him. I'm not sure. But Pat Perry appears to be seriously hurt. Dykstra, on the other hand, diving into first base, and we have seen him do that several times this year, and it seems like he always dives and hits the middle of the bag. Now here's Perry coming down, and it's just like going up for a jump shot and having your legs just cut out from under you. Perry hits on his right side. Oh boy. And he hit the turf, and that is hard. Like concrete. Matter of fact, it has an asphalt base. Does the turf here at Busch. See, he never had a chance to get that right foot down on the ground, but he gets it down on Dykstra's left side, his left part of his rib cage. Dykstra appears to be all right, as does Pat. A big scare here. Like to see a smile on the face of the young man after something like that happened. But you know, you keep watching Dykstra dive for first base, and you want to see him touch it with his fingertips. It seems like he's got a time to belly flop on the bag.
Sure. So Perry, who a moment ago looked like he might have to be carried off, may stay in the game. The way it turns out.
An error has not been posted yet, but I would think one would have to be given for allowing Keith Hernandez to score. It was a good play by Nicely, who makes the throw, but it's high to Perry. Like a defensive back, or a wide receiver, I should say, who extends and then just has everything cut out from under it. Well, he hit that turf hard.
So we're still waiting for the scoring on it, but the Mets get another run and lead by a score of 6-0.
Third baseman Ray Knight.
Ray Knight, 2 hits tonight.
If there's no error given on the play, then it's got to be an RBI for Dykstra, as Hernandez scored from second base.
Right. Apparently there is no error. They're going to give him a base hit, a run batted in, and that's the 15th hit. Infield single. No error and an RBI, at least for the moment. Meanwhile, Herzog not liking what he's seeing with Perry here after that first pitch, and not willing to gamble and take a chance, is going to go to the bullpen. And Rick Horton had been up and throwing, so he'll come in, and we'll be back right after this word and a word from your local station. Should be ready momentarily, as when Perry was down, Herzog had gotten Horton up, and he got in 10 to 12 pitchers in the bullpen, and about 15 to 20 more while we were in commercials, so Horton is just about ready. In the American League, Yanks win, snapping a 10-game home losing streak back of Rasmussen. In the National League, the Pirates win. Bob Walk picks up the victory. Barry Bonds and R.J. Reynolds hit home runs. Atlanta beating the Giants 5-1. Rick Mailer has won 10 quite silently. Youngblood and Dale Murphy homers, 13 for the Braves center fielder. And with San Diego knocking Houston off, in the National West, it's still Houston by a half. Giants in second place, and the Braves winning 5 in a row in third. Gary Carter is at third, and Len Dykstra at first base as Ray Knight gets ready to stand back in. And Horton inherits the count of 1 ball and no strikes. Knight loops it by Tommy Herr for a base hit. Carter scores. Dykstra hustles around to third. That's 5 consecutive singles now for the Mets, and a total of 16 hits in the game and a 7-0 lead.
Second baseman Tim Truffle.
And the only mystery in this one right now is, will Ojeda get his shutout and the runs pool at the office?
If the Mets win this game, or when the Mets win this game, there will be 24-7 against left-handers this year. And I think the guy largely responsible for that is Kevin Mitchell. He has been a starter at short, right, third, first, center. What a job he's done.
Ozzie Smith steps on second, and mercifully this inning concludes for the Cardinals, but the Mets add 3 on 5 hits and make it 7-0 as we go to the bottom of the ninth. Everybody is left. Those are some early arrivals for tomorrow night's game at Busch Stadium. They have vacated in a hurry here. 7-0, the Mets on top. Bob Ojeda in quest of his 9th win and 3 outs away from it, and trying to pitch the shutout. 38,819 the crowd in St. Louis tonight. And again next Monday, Roger Clemens, the way it looks right now, would be the starting pitcher if they stay in rotation without a rainout. Oakland against Boston. Clemens now 14-0, goes for his 15th to attempt to tie an American League record on Wednesday, and if he's successful, that would be for the record next Monday. Of the game, Yanks against Texas. Alan Nicely, the batter, 1-0. Reminder to stay tuned for your late local news following the game. And then Nightline, as Nicely grounds it by Ray Knight and down into the left field corner. And the lumbering first baseman pulls into second with a stand-up double. First Cardinal extra base hit since Coleman started the game with a triple.
Ended up on third base with nobody out. Then Ozzie Smith, who rarely strikes out, he struck out. Tommy Herr popped to Hernandez in foul territory, and Willie McGee grounded back to Ojeda, and that set the stage for the night.
Landrum is 0 for 3. One and 0 the count. Folks here in St. Louis have to be wondering when the real Cardinals will stand up. Was it the championship club of 1985 or the team that's just going through a disaster in '86? Popped up. Hernandez makes the play. One away. Funny, we were talking about reversals, teams going from good to bad. In recent times, I think the best pair of bookends I've seen in terms of contrast would be the Reds in 70, 71, and 72. They won the pennant in 70, and I mean, they just walked away with the West and swept the Pirates in the playoffs. And Bench won an MVP award, and Rose was Rose, and the rest of it. And then in 71, Bobby Tolan snapped his Achilles heel in the offseason, and the team never reached the 500 level. And then the following year, they bounced back and won the pennant again.
Of course, an injury was responsible for the decline in that 1 year with the Reds, but that hasn't been the case with the Cardinals. I think Andy Van Slyke, when it was applied personally to him, his comment earlier in the year really applies to the team as a whole. He said, baseball's filled with peaks and valleys. You just got to stay out of the Grand Canyon. I don't know if the Cardinals are in Grand Canyon yet. They're in some type of canyon.
Well, the Cardinals have been through the peaks and valleys in the 80s as well. Remember, the 82 team won the pennant.
Right.
And then a couple of down years, and then all of a sudden right back up on top again. So they've really ridden a roller coaster in recent years.
Bobby Ojeda went to Redwood High School in Visalia, California. Then he went to the College of the Sequoias. So I guess you could say he grew up around some good wood. Well, he's doing a good job keeping it away from that same wood tonight.
In the air to deep left field, but it's Mookie Wilson making the catch. And there are 2 down. So he gets good wood, speaking of it, but not enough. ABC News Nightline after your late local news. Tonight, should AIDS victims be removed from the workplace? Many employers believe they should, and the Justice Department has just made it easier to fire them. Opposing views on the issue heard tonight on Nightline. Terry Pendleton, 1 for 3. Ojeda an out away right now from becoming a 9-game winner. And that would tie him with Gooden and Fernandez for the team lead, and Ron Darling right behind at 8. And McDowell in the pen with 7. And our thanks to Alan Roth up here and to Steve Hurd for the graphics. Our 11th season of Monday Night Baseball. Not quite high drama, but what you're seeing is a pretty good example of why the Mets are where they are and where the Cardinals are where they are. Twisting back out of play. And St. Louis is down to its last strike.
Ojeda did not have a shutout last year. He has thrown 1 this year. He had 5 back in 1984 for the Red Sox. It's a lot of shutouts in that ballpark. 5 for a left-hander.
Hacked into right field, base hit, and Nick Leyva will hold nicely at third, so the shutout is still intact. Nicely does not run very well.
And with the Cardinals trailing by 7, does not take brain surgeon to figure out that Nicely shouldn't be allowed to score there.
Kurt Ford now, recently recalled from the minors, will come up with runners at first and third. We were talking about the up and down, and there are the ups for the Mets with Fernandez, Ojeda if he wins this one, and he's an out away, and Gooden winning 9, and Ron Darling with 8 victories, the cornerstone of the Mets staff. And just in checking it out with the Cardinals to finish the thought we had earlier with their ups and downs, they win the pennant in 82, and then in 83 they go under 500. They were 4 under. 6 over in 84, and then the pennant again last year. So a little bit of history is repeating itself in St. Louis. The
Mets with a good chance to have 4 pitchers win 20 ball games this year. It was done back in 1971 by the Orioles. 54 Cleveland Indians did it. Lemon, Garcia, Wynn, and company.
Just outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
As a matter of fact, it was back in 71 when Dave McNally won his first 15 decisions. And here Roger Clemens going for it in a couple of days. Going for 15 16 in a row right out of the chute.
Breaking pitch just missing. 2-2 on Ford. Herzog opting for the left-handed pinch hitter. Ford seems to hang in pretty well against lefties. In fact, yesterday, were it not for that rally that resulted in the Philly victory on Sam Wells' grand slammer, Ford had a key hit to put the Cardinals in front, and he did it off the lefty Don Carmen. And the 2-2 pitch. A half swing and strike 3, and Ojeda's got his shutout. And the Mets still have their 9.5 game lead, and they are 29 games over 500 in June. From St. Louis, Al Michaels and Tim McCarver saying goodnight. The Mets have won it 7-0 on the shutout by Ojeda. Be sure to join us tonight for ABC News Nightline immediately following your late local news. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. United flies more people to Hawaii than any other airline. Nobody knows Hawaii like United. And this has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.